Welcome to worship. It is good to be together on Palm Sunday, not together in person, but together in spirit as we start Holy Week in this different way of being together. I'd like to take a moment to get ready for worship. I'm going to do that by lighting a candle. You might like to get ready for worship in your own way. Get comfortable in your home where you are worshipping with us. If you want to be a bit adventurous, you could set up your own Palm Sunday scene here. Some clothes, some leaves from the garden. If you'd like to lay them down when we get to the gospel reading, you'll see why that might be a good way to set the scene. So as we take a few moments to get ready, maybe you want to go and get some leaves or some clothes, or someone in the family might have the energy to do that. And I will be lighting a candle as a reminder that Christ is with us, not only in this moment as we worship together, but in every time and in every place. A quiet moment to get ready. There is a phrase in our passage this morning: the whole city was in turmoil. Now, we could, in these times, replace that word city with the whole country, the whole continent, the whole world. And in these times, what do these people in the Gospel of Matthew have to do with us? Look at them. They are gathered. We are scattered. They're out in the streets. We're in our homes. They are on a journey. We have been asked to stay put. And yet, in spite of the differences, there is a sense of familiarity as well. These people, they're shouting Hosanna, which means save us. They're shouting save us. They're looking to Jesus to swoop in and put things right. They're hoping for an end to their struggle, an end to their suffering. They need someone to come and turn it all around. And so there they are running ahead of Jesus, they're running ahead of God. And they're shouting and they're causing a ruckus so that everyone in the city is looking at them. Everyone's eyes are on Jesus. People's eyes are on Jesus, and they're asking two questions. Who is this man, and will he save us? And so this crowd that's running ahead of Jesus, they're saying he comes from God, and I can relate to them. I find myself wanting to run ahead of God on this one. I find myself wanting to make some suggestions of what God might want to do next. And I want to be able to stand up and hold the Bible and say, relax everyone, the manual has this covered. Or don't worry guys, we'll be raring to go by Easter. I find myself being tempted to try and explain what is going on and what will happen next, to give easy answers. I wish in a way I could offer a crash course in biblical prophecy, give you a forecast. I've seen a few people trying to do that in these times. I want to run ahead of God. Except, I'm not sure that running ahead of Jesus is what we are called to do. I think we're called to stick with Jesus, to follow him. Sometimes as Christians, I think we can be so busy beckoning the God we want, firmly in control, a golden crown on his head, that we can miss, that we can lose sight of the God that we have. Jesus, who walks alongside us, So often the only crown on his head, one that is twisted out of thorns. Sometimes we as Christians can be so busy waving enormous palm branches to proclaim that God's empire has come that we might forget that a different sort of king means a different sort of kingdom. One where often the signs of hope are not in the big things, but in the small and in the subtle things like a single leaf in the beak of a small bird. Sometimes true wisdom is in not having answers. Sometimes true love is not trying to make it all better. And sometimes the most honest prayer is, God, have you forsaken us? Everyone who knows me knows that I love upbeat, inspiring Christian praise and worship. But in times like these, some of that can be exposed as superficial. If our hosannas turn to silence when things don't go the way that we hoped, or even to jeers if we feel that God has let us down. I've often considered how this crowd that was praising Jesus on Palm Sunday departed from him on Good Friday a few days later. But looking at this passage today, what if they departed from Jesus much earlier in Holy Week? What if this is where they left him behind? What if this crowd left Jesus behind at the city gates on Palm Sunday? Because they were so busy running ahead of Jesus, trying to direct him and define him and to put him in a box or a palace. And there he is. He's left at the back, treading on the cloaks, riding on a donkey. There he is, Jesus. Jesus and the 12. And by this point in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus has already foretold his death 3 times. 3 times he has warned them. Jesus knows all too well the darkness that awaits him, and yet he keeps on walking. He keeps on going toward Jerusalem. What if our greatest hope is not in a God who only hears our cry and saves us from death? What if our greatest hope is in a God who knows what it is to cry? Who knows even what it is to die? Who knows what it is to weep? What if our greatest hope is a God who comes home, a God who stays home? Palm Sunday is a story of Jesus coming home. Not home to Bethlehem, not home to heaven. That's not God's home. But coming home to the thick of human suffering. Your pain, my worries, Syria's despair, South Africa's insecurity, overcrowded ICU wards in London, the tears of an NHS nurse, in the heart of the bereaved, that's where Jesus dwells. That is God's home. And when you and I have the courage not to run ahead of Jesus, but to stick with Jesus, to share his anguish, to bear his cross, when we have the courage to follow Jesus, we find our home in him. And when we do, when we find our home in Jesus, no place has ever been more beautiful.